Welcome back, everybody. We are here for another one of your questions about work. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, I'm Roy, and I'm here today with my partner, who we've been trying to get to come talk about this for a while, Karin. We've had like CEOs and government officials, but now today we have Karin about a subject about which I would just say for the last 8 or 9 years of working together, I feel like this has been one of the ones that, Karin, that I've come back to you again and again on, which for today, day 156, our question is about some markets that you've seen, which is, as a founder in this like bizarrely hot market, how do I make the most of it and what do I do?
I feel like the community is getting a little bit of an insight into our team meetings right now.
This is what our team meetings are. This is basically overhearing a team meeting, and I feel good about that.
Yeah,
I would happily broadcast our team meetings if I didn't think that we were sharing things about founders that aren't
exactly. I hear you. I love that we have open sourced our operating manual, and I think we'd like to find a way to do that for our team meetings if we didn't have proprietary information about our companies. Exactly. Exactly. Well, I mean, yes, as you pointed out, I've seen a few cycles and benefited from them in many cases, and feel really fortunate to have worked with some founders who've done especially well during those kind of times. And then there's also been challenging times. And so I'd say my starting, not advice, but advice or counsel would be to stay grounded, because if you set up the right foundation and make sure your house is in order for all practical purposes, and know what the unit economics are on your business, and think about your cash burn relative to the cash you have on hand, you're setting the foundation to be able to have a lot of flexibility. And as a result, you can capitalize on things during these times if you have that head on your shoulders and the foundation with the business.
Can I ask about that? What are been the ways that you could tell, before I let you keep going with the answer, but how can you tell when you're talking to a founder if you feel like they're starting to lose that grounding?
So it's very attractive, I mean, to get the press and to get the momentum. And I think it's some of it comes through with the way they just stay laser focused on what they want to accomplish. And I'd say it's almost like an energy, and it's not a surprise to me that meditation is on the rise, because there's an element of, I'm determined to accomplish something, and there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs, but I'm executing, and that's what the best founders seem to do. And we've seen it. We have so many. I mean, in our portfolio, there's a lot of folks right now who are just crushing it because they're doing that.
Yeah, I mean, the converse of it is I remember a founder once saying to me, I don't think it's a founder we backed, saying, I just raised this money and my responsibility is to spend it as fast as I can. It's like, no, the amount you spend, yes, it should be related to what you raise in the sense that you shouldn't overspend compared to how much you have. But ideally, you're spending money based on the things you want to build, that you de-risk, and the progress you want to make. And then it's only insurance if you don't spend it. But anyway, I'm going to let you keep answering the core question.
I mean, that's exactly it, though, Roy. I mean, it's like, it's very, to listen to how somebody's going through their operating plan. And I know, since you and I have worked together for so many years, I mean, we have a very similar philosophy on if there is capital and access to capital, like, just spend it according to your plan. Don't overstep, and make sure you're testing things before just spending.
And how about the founders now who are like, well, but if I wait 6 to 9 months, I may be able to raise at a higher price. What would you say to those founders?
Yeah, so I think that when money comes a calling, you should take it. And especially if it's at terms you like, just because, I mean, as you know, I worked at Softbank before we started Bloomberg Beta, and I worked with Mike Milken before that. And so as a result, there have been these different times where, these founders have been the bells of the ball, and everyone was eager to give them checks. And then next thing you know, public markets correct, or something happens with one of their major customers, and it's just everyone you thought was your friend, and so desperate to work with you, Sometimes they even ghost you. It's incredible.
And I think, I wasn't involved in the tech industry then, but I remember then thinking it was unimaginable that the party would come to an end. It felt like it was a permanent shift in the way that the world operated, and it was like good times roll. And I think in some ways it feels like that now. It's really hard to imagine the party coming to an end. I mean, and when I say the party, I don't mean in our corner of the tech world and the VC funding world, not obviously lots of people for whom the middle of a pandemic is anything but. But yeah, I love that, of just remembering that the people who seem to be your friends now may not be. Any other thoughts?
Well, and to your point about this time, I mean, we've had over 10 years, right? And so in some ways, I mean, tech has been isolated from some of the challenges that, and even for some founders to think you've been working for a decade and you haven't necessarily, fundraising's hard. I mean, we're never going to, say that but there's been a lot more momentum and a lot more access than there have been, when there are challenging times. And so one of the things I just encourage people to do is come in with revisit what your plan is on a relative, a regular basis. And then when you do see opportunities like now, I mean, financing it's a great time to be a startup founder and to be out seeking capital. You can do how many Zoom meetings can one do in a day, and what kind of auction process can they get to really get the best investors around the table? I mean, it's a lot easier than when you had to hop on the subway or the 405 or 280, to reach people and do meetings. And so it's a good time to raise if that's possible. The other thing that I think is an interesting thing about this time is we have even new things that are becoming available to certain companies, like SPACs, wouldn't have necessarily been an option. And,
now we have our first company that is being acquired by a SPAC. And so we will experience it firsthand, but,
yes, and learn along the way, which is great.
Those options are great. And we saw, the new Reg CF allows plenty of folks to go direct to investors in the broader market, not necessarily just working with, VCs like us, but we shall see what the future brings. All right, Karin, I insist that it doesn't take that long to get us doing this again.
Well, and I was going to say, I mean, there certainly are a lot of interesting things that people can turn to as we think about these times. I mean, it's not only financing, it's also customers. This is a great time to reach out and access customers because you can do meetings by video.
Totally. You don't have to fly to Minneapolis, or if you're already in Minneapolis, you don't have to drive to where you're going. And
we've seen some of our founders also launch products, which has also been you look at Dan and Jeff Mannion from Donut and launching Water Cooler. And we say okay, they're making the most. They have the long-term vision of where they want to be, and they know their product is important to the market right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's this weird duality of, on the one hand, not being too psychologically affected by heady times, and on the other hand, rationally taking advantage of it. And I think of the Softbank investment in Flexport, where Ryan Peterson was like, I want to have a balance sheet so that whatever may come, I'm prepared for it. And that's precisely what's happened. So we shall see. But as Karin said, that isn't advice. It is her perspective, my perspective, but hers comes informed from having to deal with some of the trickiest business situations that you read about in the first boom. And I hope some of the most exciting ones in this one. And thank you, Karin.
Oh, my pleasure. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, exactly.